Welcome, everybody. It is 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on this Wednesday, March 11th, and we are so glad to have you with us. It is time for Outwitting the Devil, our internet series, where what we've done is we're going through the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, chapter by chapter, based on the audiobook. And we have a gentleman with us who is an incredible teacher, an incredible friend, and I love what he says and shares, and just really get ready to take notes. The gentleman I'm going to introduce you to for our next chapter of Outwitting the Devil has studied at the University of Wyoming, Northwest College, and Stanford University. He works at making a difference, teaching people how to create an entrepreneurial lifestyle of fun, profit, freedom, and impact. And his mission in life is to help you, yes, you, create an authentic life of freedom of your choosing and on your terms. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our professor for Outwitting the Devil. Let's give it up for Mr. Dana Scranton.
Oh, thank you, Craig. Thank you, Robert. That's always such a one of those introductions that makes me look around and back of me to see where I am.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Craig's
Ben.
the best. Craig's the best at it for sure.
Oh, appreciate it. Well, okay, well, we'll just get right into the introductory slides before we go for the audio today. And this is kind of the onset of the 7 principles by which you may escape the clutches of the devil. So it's an important day. And there we go. So we are up and running. You should see the slide deck there.
Just got it. It says
Okay.
Chapter 6 or Chapter 8A audio.
Yeah, so the reason it's
Okay.
8A, they're gonna split this chapter of definiteness of purpose. It's gonna get split in two like the last one was. So I'll call this one 8A. That way I'm not confused. Let me put it that way. So let me get down here and we'll just move right on. In Think and Grow Rich, which of course is Napoleon Hill's epic tome that is one of the most sought after, most read, and probably the most sold personal development books in the world, or darn close. There is something that's said in that book, and it says the secret to success is mentioned no less than 100 times in this book. Well, that secret is having a definite major purpose. And so that's the key. That's the big key. That's the big elephant in the room that gives you the possibility to escape the clutches of the evil dude, the devil. So that's the directive that everything is built around. And so naturally, this is the first of the 7 means by which you can defend yourself against the evil dude. So there's a difference, however, between definite and definiteness. And we mentioned that way back in the beginning of this series. And I want to just preface that with a discussion about intentions, because in this audio that you're going to hear today, at one point, Sharon Lecter, she chimes in and she gives her input to the text. And she's going to mention this word intention, but if you paid attention to the word intention, it's been popping up in the personal development spaces more and more. It's like the new word. At least that's what I see. And it's now just kind of, to me, lumped into the same category as mindset, which is catch-all term for personal development community to hang things on. It's a new word. It's something different. When people hear mindset, more of that mindset stuff. And then they hear intention, they go, oh, well, what's that? So intention gets their attention until they figure out what it is. Well, to me, intentions are soft, variable, and subjective, and anything but definite. And that's a problem in the context of what we're going to learn today on the first of the 7 principles. And I'm just mentioning this because I think that word intention is becoming an excuse. For example, if you ask someone their intentions, it's not uncommon for them to turn around and say, well, I maybe might want or would like to do this someday. You know, if I think of all the times I've asked somebody, well, what are your intentions here? It's usually qualified with a maybe, a might, or would like to, but it's very seldom I'm going to do it no matter what, even if I die trying. Intentions don't go together with that. So I just wanted to bring that up. So, and also writing down intentions to me is a way of making a to-do list that just seems more legitimate and significant, but it's still a to-do list. And a to-do list isn't what we need here. So here's some quotes that go along with intention. I'm on an intention rant here. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. You've heard that one, I'm sure. That's one of the most popular. Within one of the publications of Napoleon Hill's, it says intentions trick us into thinking we are doing well because we mean well. That's that to-do list phenomenon. Then when you really think about it, either do or do not a thing. Do not do a thing. Intending to do a thing is just another way of saying maybe, in my opinion. So like Yoda would say, do or do not do. Intention is not commitment. There is. I can't sound like Yoda, but that's what he'd say. And then we get to the topic of drifting because those concepts of intentions, to me, set people on a drift. Okay, and as it is said by Napoleon Hill, drifting is an illusion of your life of habits being acceptable and comfortable because it is unmeasured. Now, let that sink in for a moment before we get into this audio. Drifting, people may not understand they're drifting, they may not admit it because they have an illusion of their life's habits, the things they do, being acceptable and comfortable. And why? Because it's unmeasured. Drifting, they don't see it as drifting. They see it as being comfortable and acceptable. So it must be okay. And the moment you measure your life and those habits and that comfort state against a definite purpose, it's a wake-up call. As long as you want to step up and identify a definite purpose, then all of a sudden, those habits that have been following you around for weeks, years, decades, they become illuminated as what they are. They are the winds blowing you every direction but where you want to go. So now we get back to the definite versus definiteness. The whole idea of intentions and drifting is opposite in my mind to definite and definiteness. So we're going to define these two, and we did up earlier in our series, we talked about these. In Napoleon Hill's books, he refers to those two terms, definite major purpose, and then he says definiteness of purpose. And I think sometimes people get those two in their minds as being the same thing. They are not, and they're very distinctly different, and they must both be present. So a definite major purpose is basically the objective. It's the thing that defines your life when you attain that purpose. The desires, dreams, vision, it affirms your core identity. It's the thing that you wanted to deliver to the world. Boom, there it is. That is your definite major purpose. It's the thing that occupies your thoughts, your actions, everything. Now, definiteness of purpose, on the other hand, this is the inner posture and state of commitment, decision, and action. So this is the machine that's running underneath to hold up that definite major purpose. And it's comprised of things like clarity, certainty, firmness, commitment, persistence, action, and staying the course towards that definite major purpose, and a refusal to drift. These are terms that describe a state of definiteness. So they're two different things. And sometimes I think they get mixed up. In fact, I know they get mixed up. So today's chapter in the book is definiteness of purpose. And as we go through the book, the devil kind of breaks down all the things that are going on that Mr. Earthbound is interrogating him about. And if you just kind of read through what's happening, you'll see that they are discussing definiteness, but that definite purpose kind of weaves its way into there, and sometimes it can be confusing. So here is a concept, an idea that you need to embrace. And this is critical. Definiteness in the small things leads to definiteness in the big things. Now, what does that mean? Here's what it means. The little things that you do on a day-to-day basis that you commit to, that you do with definiteness, even though they're not related to your definite major purpose, builds the habit of definiteness. Okay? Even though they're unrelated or weakly associated with your major purpose, if you get in the habit of being definite about the things in your life, that contributes to definiteness of purpose. And then, therefore, definiteness becomes a hypnotic rhythm because it's based on habits that have been internalized. And that moves you forward towards your definite major purpose. And as we've said in the past episodes, hypnotic rhythm can be both good and bad. When it's bad habits, when it's leading you down a blind alley and you don't seem to care and you've given up on the world and your habits don't really lead you anywhere, that's bad. But when your hypnotic rhythm has you pulsing towards your goals and your purpose, that's good. So I just wanted to mention this before we get into the chapter. So that said, that's it. Let her roll.
Great stuff.
I have always been fascinated with how Hill's mind works. After building a case for impending doom, he now reveals the lifeline for anyone seeking success. This is a critical turning point. As you listen,
Chapter 8, Definiteness of Purpose.
Is that the one?
I have always been fascinated with how Hill's mind works. After building a case for impending doom, he now reveals the lifeline for anyone seeking success. This is a critical turning point. As you listen further, will his 7 principles capture your imagination as they did mine? In the rest of the book, Hill discusses spiritual, mental, and physical freedom. 1. Definiteness of purpose. 2. Mastery over self. 3. Learning from adversity. 4. Controlling environmental influence, associations. 5. Time. Giving permanency to positive rather than negative thought habits and developing wisdom. 6. Harmony. Acting with definiteness of purpose to become the dominating influence in your own mental, spiritual, and physical environment. 7. Caution. Thinking through your plan before you act.
Your Majesty will now proceed to unfold the secrets of the 7 principles through which human beings may force life to provide them with spiritual, mental, and physical freedom. Do not be sparing in your description of these principles. I want a complete illustration of how the principles may be used by anyone who chooses to use them. Tell us all you know about the principle of definiteness of purpose.
If you go through with this mad idea of publishing my confession, you will open the gates of hell and turn loose all the precious souls I have collected back down through the ages. You will deprive me of souls yet unborn. You will release from my bondage millions now living. Stop, I beg of you.
Open up. Let's hear what you have to say about the principle of definiteness of purpose.
You are pouring water on the fires of hell, but the responsibility is yours, not mine. I may as well tell you that any human being who can be definite in his aims and plans can make life hand over whatever is wanted.
That is a broad claim, Your Majesty. Do you wish to tone it down a bit?
Tone it down? No, I wish to tone it up. When you hear what I now have to say, you will understand why the principle of definiteness is so important. My opposition uses a clever little trick to cheat me of my control over people. The opposition knows that definiteness of purpose closes the door of one's mind so tightly against me that I cannot break through unless I can induce one to form the habit of drifting.
Why doesn't your opposition give your secret to all people by telling them to avoid you through definiteness of purpose? You've already admitted that 2 out of every 100 people belong to your opposition.
Because I am more clever than my opposition. I draw people away from definiteness with my promises. You see, I control more people than my opposition because I am a better salesman and a better showman. I attract people by feeding them liberally of the thought habits in which they like to indulge.
Is definiteness of purpose something with which one must be born, or may it be acquired?
Everyone, as I have told you before, is born with the privilege of being definite, but 98 out of every 100 people lose this privilege by sleeping on it. The privilege of definiteness can be maintained only by adopting it as a policy by which one is guided in all the affairs of life.
Oh, I see. One takes advantage of the principle of definiteness, just as one may build a strong physical body through constant, systematic use. Is that it?
You have stated the truth clearly and accurately.
Now I think we are getting somewhere, Your Majesty. We have at long last found the starting point from which all who become self-determining in life must take off. We have discovered from your astounding confession that your greatest asset is man's lack of caution, which enables you to lead him into the jungle of indefiniteness through simple bribes. We have learned, beyond the question of doubt, that anyone who adopts definiteness of purpose as a policy and uses it in all of his daily experiences cannot be induced to form the habit of drifting. Without the aid of the drifting habit, you are powerless to attract people through promises. Is this correct?
I couldn't have stated the truth more clearly myself.
Go ahead now and describe how people neglect their privilege of being free and self-determining through indefiniteness and drifting.
I have already made brief reference to this principle, but I will now go into more minute details as to how the principle works. I shall have to begin at the time of birth. When a child is born, it brings with it nothing but a physical body representing the evolutionary results of millions of years of ancestry. Its mind is a total blank. When the child reaches the age of consciousness and begins to recognize the objects of its surroundings, it begins also to imitate others. Imitation becomes a fixed habit. Naturally, the child imitates, first of all, its parents. Then it begins to imitate its other relatives and daily associates, including its religious instructors and school teachers. The imitation extends not merely to physical expression, but also to thought expression. If a child's parents fear me and express that fear within range of the child's hearing, the child picks up the fear through the habit of imitation and stores it away as part of its subconscious stock of beliefs. If the child's religious instructor expresses any form of fear of me, and they all do in one form or another, that fear is added to the similar fear passed to the child by its parents, and the two forms of negative limitation are stored away in the subconscious mind to be drawn upon and used by me later in life. In a similar way, the child learns by imitation to limit its power of thought by filling its mind with envy, hatred, greed, lust, revenge, and all the other negative impulses of thought which destroy all possibility of definiteness. Meanwhile, I move in and induce the child to drift until I bind its mind through hypnotic rhythm.
Am I to understand from your remarks that you have to gain control of people while they are very young, or lose your opportunity at them altogether?
I prefer to claim them before they come into possession of their own minds. Once any person learns the power of his own thoughts, he becomes positive and difficult to subdue. As a matter of fact, I cannot control any human being who discovers and uses the principle of definiteness.
Is the habit of definiteness a permanent protection against your control?
No, not by any means. Definiteness closes the door of one's mind to me only as long as that person follows the principle as a matter of policy. Once any person hesitates, procrastinates, or becomes indefinite about anything, he is just one step removed from my control.
Once any person hesitates, procrastinates, or becomes indefinite about anything, he is just one step removed from my control. The metaphysical and spiritual aspects of the author's philosophy are on display in these responses by the devil. What he calls definiteness is today often called intention, or being goal-driven or purpose-driven.
What has definiteness to do with one's material circumstances? I want to know if one may acquire power through definiteness of purpose without inviting destruction through the law of compensation.
Your question limits my illustrations because there are so few people in the world who understand. and there have been so few in the past who understood how to use definiteness of purpose without attracting to themselves the negative application of the law of compensation. Here you are forcing me to disclose one of my most prized tricks. I am bound to tell you that I eventually reclaim for my cause all who escape me temporarily through definiteness of purpose. The reclamation is made by filling the mind with greed for power and the love of egotistical expression, until the individual falls into the habit of violating the rights of others. Then I step in with the law of compensation and reclaim my victim.
So I see from your admission that definiteness of purpose may be dangerous in proportion to its possibility as a power. Is that true?
Yes. And what is more important, every principle of good carries with it the seed of an equivalent danger.
That is hard to believe. What danger, for example, can there be in the habit of love of truth?
The danger lies in the word habit. All habits, save only that of the love of definiteness of purpose, may lead to the habit of drifting. Love for truth, unless it assumes the proportion of definite pursuit of truth, may become similar to all other good intentions. You know, of course, what I do with good intentions.
Is love for one's relatives also dangerous?
The love for anything or anyone, save only the love of definiteness of purpose, may become dangerous. Love is a state of mind which beclouds reason, saps willpower, and blinds one to facts and truth. Everyone who becomes self-determining and gains spiritual freedom to think his own thoughts must examine carefully every emotion that seems even remotely related to love. You may be surprised to know that love is one of my most effective baits. With it, I lead into the habit of drifting those whom I could attract with nothing else. That is why I have placed it at the head of my list of bribes. Show me what any person loves most, and I will have my cue as to how that person can be induced to drift until I bind him with hypnotic rhythm. Love and fear combined give me the most effective weapons with which I induce people to drift. One is as helpful to me as the other. Both have the effect of causing people to neglect to develop definiteness in the use of their own minds. Give me control over a person's fears and tell me what he loves most, and you may as well mark that person down as my slave. Both love and fear are emotional forces of such stupendous potency that either may completely set aside the power of will and the power of reason. Without will and reason, there is nothing left to support definiteness of purpose.
But, Your Majesty, life would not be worth living if people never felt the emotion of love.
Ah, you are right as far as your reasoning goes, but you neglected to add that love should be under one's definite control at all times. Of course, love is a desirable state of mind, but it also is a palliative, which may be used to limit or destroy reason and willpower, both of which rate above love in importance to human beings who want freedom and self-determination.
I understand from what you say that people who gain power must harden their emotions, master fear, and subdue love. Is that correct?
People who gain and maintain power must become definite in all their thoughts and all their deeds. If that is what you call hard, then they must become hard.
Let us look into the sources of advantage of definiteness in the everyday affairs of life. Which is more apt to succeed, a weak plan applied with definiteness, or a sound, strong plan indefinitely applied?
Weak plans have a way of becoming strong if definitely applied.
You mean that any plan definitely put into continuous action in pursuit of a definite purpose may be successful, even if it is not the best plan?
Yes, I mean just that. Definiteness of purpose plus definiteness of plan by which the purpose is to be achieved generally succeeds, no matter how weak the plan may be. The major difference between a sound and an unsound plan is that the sound plan, if definitely applied, may be carried out more quickly than an unsound plan.
In other words, if one cannot be always right, one can and should be always definite. Is that what you were trying to get across to me?
That is the idea. People who are definite in both their plans and their purposes never accept temporary defeat as being more than an urge to greater effort. You can see for yourself that this sort of policy is bound to win if it is followed with definiteness.
Can a person who moves with definiteness of both plan and purpose be always sure of success?
No. The best of plans sometimes misfire. But the person who moves with definiteness recognizes the difference between temporary defeat and failure. When plans fail, he substitutes others, but he does not change his purpose. He perseveres. Eventually, he finds a plan that succeeds.
Will a plan based upon immoral or unjust ends succeed as quickly as one motivated by a keen sense of justice and morality?
Through the operation of the law of compensation, everyone reaps that which he sows. Plans based on unjust or immoral motives may bring temporary success, but enduring success must take into consideration the fourth dimension, time. Time is the enemy of immorality and injustice. It is the friend of justice and morality. Failure to recognize this fact has been responsible for the crime wave among the youths of the world. The youthful, inexperienced mind is apt to mistake temporary success for permanency. The youth often makes the mistake of coveting the temporary gains of immoral, unjust plans, but neglects to look ahead and observe the penalties which follow as definitely as night follows day.
Chapter 9, Education and Religion.
Yeah, so that's yeah. So that was the first part of the chapter on outwitting the devil's definiteness of purpose. And it's, if you look in the book, the chapter continues as definiteness of purpose. The term education and religious instruction is something that was extracted by the people who were putting together the audio, but it splits the chapter in two, and then it moves into that same topic that has been covered a number of times about religion in schools, but it expands on it a bit. So that'll be an interesting one. Well, this chapter A part, this thing is filled with major ahas, right? And to me, like I said at the beginning, the thing that really attracts my attention in this chapter is the little things. It doesn't have to be focused on your major purpose, but if you do the little things in a definite way, it amplifies your effectiveness as you move towards your purpose. And I would ask, how many times have you thought about, well, is this something that is moving me towards my purpose? And it's not, so you blow it off, even though it's important. I do that on a periodic basis. So that said, in the community now, what do you think about what you just learned about the whole role of the definiteness of purpose idea?
And as we always request that you do, is so that you can share and give everybody the opportunity to, is to raise your hand or put a comment in the chat, and then we'll share that on your behalf. But the point being is that you interact with us. So please put your cursor in the middle of the screen where you see these pictures, these videos. Then on the bottom, one of those buttons is raise hand. Click on that button, and we will call on you in the order in which we receive you. So that's how we do the interaction here on Outwitting the Devil. And Dana, in the meantime, while we wait for maybe one or two people to raise their hands, is there anything else that you'd like to share about this chapter?
Well, sure. And it's, when we look about building a business and helping other people to find a means by which they can achieve their own successes, one of the things you kind of have to find, I think, is you want to get into their life. You want to understand, what are the things that they do? Why do they do them? What's important? Because within that series of questions are habits, things they do. And it may be of benefit to both the entrepreneur and the to-be entrepreneur to be able to understand that the little things they do on a day-to-day basis can amplify into success. I've got a friend across the trail here. He's a West Point graduate, and I happened to be reading a book one time that was talking about training West Point cadets and officers. And they have these things they call micro successes. And all they are is any little thing that you can do where you win, even if it's not related necessarily to the mission, that builds confidence because you learned to win in that particular element, and it builds the leadership skills and the confidence to make the tougher decisions. Well, that's what we're looking at here. In achieving your purpose, you have a mission, and that is your major definitive purpose that you've got in your mind that you want to achieve. And when you do that, you can win by winning at the little things. And that could be, I mean, I'm going to be a little off the wall here, but that could be mowing the lawn when it needs to be mowed on the same day every week at the same time. I mean, I'm getting a little ridiculous here, but the idea is mowing the lawn has nothing to do with succeeding, perhaps in some people's minds, of building that, monthly income residual. But the reality is every time that you can chalk up another win because you were definiteness of purpose in those actions, that accumulates and builds a habit of doing it with everything. So anyway, that's I'm kind of reinforcing what I've already said, but it extends to a lot of different areas of life.
Very good. Thank you so much. And we do have two hands that have just been raised. So, Coach Bob, you came up first. Thank you very much. Why don't you go ahead and open up and please share with us?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't find the raise a hand. Hi, Dana. This is
Uh,
really good, this whole thing. So my big thing is drifting, right? And I don't think people even know they're drifting because um I was on ChatGPT and I was trying to get my life together, right? So it gave me three things to do each day, three things to hit my goals. And I can't even follow those. I drift off into things that I want to do when I find things I should do. And I think I would have never known that if I didn't write these things down. This drifting thing is huge, right?
Yeah.
mhm. Yep. Yeah, it's something I think, and like we talked about, most people don't know they're doing it because it's comfortable and it's reasonable to them on a day-to-day basis. It's the things they like to do, and it sets them adrift. They don't know it. And so they go to all the self-improvement sites and they spend money on anything that ends in a seven. And and pretty soon, they're broke, poor, and I think Jim Rohn had this series of things. He says, well, they're broke and they're stupid and they're ugly. Now they're stupid, broke, ugly, and you don't know it. You're absolutely right. People don't know they're drifting, and so that's one of the major benefits of learning about this book is that concept of drifting, because now you're aware of it, and awareness is huge.
Yeah, and I think that's why a good idea. And a lot of people say write down your goals, write them down, right? So then you kind of look at them because if you don't, you just forget about them and you go do whatever you want to do. Like I got my basement I want to clean out, but I always avoid it by doing something else. I veer off to do something else, and I think I'm being productive, right? But I'm really not, because I want to get this done. So,
Coach
how do
Bob,
you?
Coach Bob, one of the key things in doing this is I don't know if you've ever heard this phrase, is how you do some things, you do all things. And when I first got involved in this, there was always these little things like Dana said with West Point grant, West Point is like, finding something when I give people the things that I call gifts, right? It's like the ability of doing something for 30 days to get that win changes your whole entire life. Because what you're doing is you're saying, okay, I'm going to have a definiteness of I'm going to do this one thing at this time every day. And you'll notice that when you can't, well, that's okay. Start over. I even tell people to do something simple as going to Walmart or at least on Amazon and getting a physical calendar. And people go, I don't need to do that. I got, software, I got maps on my computer, I got everything. It's them not willing to do the simple thing. Because if you got a calendar that's in front of you all the time and it's a new calendar, you're looking at it. And now that you're looking at it, you're taking a black, Sharpie or whatever, and you're going through every day. And if you miss a day, that's okay. Start over. But it's just this one thing that you can do. And if you don't think a half hour is too much, then do something for 15 minutes or do something for 10 minutes. But you got to get a little win. You got to get a little win. So when my mentor told me to get the greatest miracle in the world and then call him, I had to go to a bookstore. I did it. I read it. It was not easy for me. I called him, and all he wanted to know was what was the exercise that it told you to do. And when I tell people what's the exercise, 99.9% of people go, I don't recall that it said anything. Well, that's telling you how much retention and focus that they had on reading the book. And I said to him, I know exactly what it is. You know, I got to read chapter, the greatest God memorandum, every night out loud before I go to bed. And he goes, great, are you going to do it? And I said, absolutely. That's why that book is so important to me, because it not only proved to me that I could do it, but I used to tell people I don't read. I'm dyslexic. I don't read. So making a commitment to read chapter 9 out loud every night before I went to bed was huge for me. So that's why I give those gifts away. It immediately shows me that the way that somebody will do one thing, the way they do the rest. And so you'll find it's interesting, Dana, because the word drift is in the Bible. in Hebrew, and it's talking about the same thing that you're talking about here. And I went, if you asked everybody, hey, is the word drift in the Bible? They'd go, I don't think it is. Does it mean the same as it does in this? It does. And there's these little things like how many people can pray? Literally pray. And why it says go into a prayer closet is because I think that God knows how shy you are. If I'm going to pray, I hope no one sees me doing this. I hope no one, it's like the way our mind plays with us. So to go one place and with definiteness, actually be quiet and still and know that I'm God. You don't even have to pray. If you just went one place every day at the same time, and just shut up. the most is like, wow, I'm all by myself. So you guys know a lot of time I go outside. So if I'm outside on my knees, no one around, it's like it's hard to be drifting. I actually put myself in a situation where I can't drift. So I hope that helped.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, like in our business, Robert, like 1% or 2%, and everyone's, I think, drifting in that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone just kind of, they just don't want to focus. They focus on the wrong thing. And even me, I get, I think I'm being productive, but I really am not,
Yeah. And in our life, or even in this Outwitting the Devil, it's like if this book has, and again, thank you, Dana, so much for your time. If this book does anything for you, anything with Dana's teaching, if you spent the rest of your life just reaching out to people and say, hey, I just felt that I'd reach out to you. I was wondering if you ever heard of the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill? Because we have a person that took the time to walk us through the whole book in this series, teaching us how to change our lives. If that's all you did to strangers for the rest of your life, there's no way you could count the amount of money that would come in. No way. Because the ones that hear it, the ones that do it, the ones that actually get results for it will give you credit for the rest of your life. And now they want to know what else you're doing.
Oh, definitely. And I don't even think people know they're drifting. That's the problem.
They don't.
You go through life and you have no clue. You think you're being productive, and you're just going around in a circle.
In hypnotic phase. I'm sorry, Dana. Go ahead. I didn't mean to go off on a
No
tangent.
problem. What I was going to mention is, you mentioned a mess in your basement, but I had a similar thing. What I did is I came up with an acronym. It's called OSM, and in my daily planner, I have a checkbox called OSM, and that means one small mess. So every day, one small mess, even if it's 5 minutes, getting it orderly and straightened out, and that one little 5 minute period, by the end of the month, all of a sudden that mess is gone. You don't need to tackle it all at once. And so the basic concept there is you've got this life of unfinished projects. Many people have this, and it weighs them down. They don't realize it, but it's a form of drifting. And you've got to get rid of that background noise and that weight. So, you just discipline yourself to tackle one thing a day that removes that particular mess. Don't spread it out over 5 or 10 messes of life. Focus on the one every day. It's done, move to the next one. And so that builds a kind of a hypnotic rhythm in attacking the mess.
Very good.
And as the mess goes away, you can look at it and celebrate that success. And then you just keep repeating the process. And yeah, the trick for the layman, for the people that you're talking to unload on them and say, well, it sounds like you're drifting. That probably wouldn't work. But to give them a concept, to be able to ask questions, what do you like to do? What's your life like? Just the little personal things, the communication, the relationship building. It gets somewhere along the line, it allows you to interject that there are ways to get your dreams, to achieve your goals by doing a few very simple things, because what they want to hear is they do simple things. And to identify the things that they can do on a day-to-day basis every day that reinforce and build confidence in their ability to do the next thing, that's that 95% of the people out there, or 98 is, Napoleon Hill measures. That's what they're looking for, is how do I bring meaning to my life? How do I get further down the trail? So anyway, that's just my feedback on that.
Yeah, let me ask you a question then. So I had this list. I wrote down this list. There were like 25 things I needed to do. And I put them in the chat GPT, and it says, this is way too much. You gotta. And the problem with me is I've got so much that I'm thinking about, so many ideas going through my head that nothing gets done then. It's just like, I just overwhelm myself. And I try to take 3 things to focus on, but then I get sidetracked, So this has really been a great book to go through with us, because it really makes your eyes open to things in your life.
Yep. Raises awareness.
I'm proud of you, Bob. It's the reason that for me, I used to build race cars. And exactly what Dana just said, I didn't realize that I did that, because of course I was excited about finishing the race car, but there's just so many things. Holy cow, building a race car, it's an endless list, right? And so I didn't know that I did this, but I was the guy that goes, what can I do with what I have? And a lot of times it was just sanding, grinding, prepping, because my thoughts would always go, Bob, it's like, man, I can't wait to purchase, the cam and the crank and the pistons for the motor. I don't have any money. So then I need to wait until I get some money before I can build my race car. See? So it was sitting in the garage, so I would go in there every day after school, and I would do what I could with what I had. Most of the times I didn't have the money, but it didn't stop me from prepping the parts and welding pieces and doing stuff that I needed to do to get it to a place. And then all of a sudden you just see this little baby steps, eating the elephant one bite at a time. And I was going to ask Dana a question as well. When you put you look at all the stuff that you got to do and there's something that you could do in 5 or 10 minutes, right? How many times when you went and did that, do you just keep doing stuff?
Yeah.
It's like, listen, I set the time aside to do this 5-minute mess. It's all in the definiteness. It's like, so you get there, you go there, and you start doing it, and you're going, well, I'm going to take and knock 15, 16, and 17 off the list. You know what I mean? And before you know it, it's like you've been doing stuff for 2 hours.
Right.
And that's pretty rewarding. You know what I mean? It is pretty interesting that the hardest step is the first one. We've heard that many times. I think there's a great graphic that Martin Luther King did, where it shows this giant staircase. And it just on the very bottom one, it just says, just take this one. just take this one. Good stuff, Bob.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I would mention to everyone is encourage everyone to write things down that you're going to do to the day and then see if you can do them. Because a lot of times if you don't write things down, you just drift. You'll go off and you'll just do something else, when you're not getting the things that you need to get done. So that's the only thing I'd have to say.
Yeah, and put the first one in an alarm on your phone. You got a list of things to do. All right. Then look at all of them and say, which one is the most important? And then next to it, there's got to be a start time. List does you nothing if you don't start. So you go, I think this is the most important. I'm going to start that at 2:30. Take the time to put an alarm on your computer or your phone. When it goes off, do it. Don't contemplate, to consider, to evaluate, talk to your parakeet or dog. It's just no. It's like, just do it.
Yeah, that's just like kids, though. They clean your room and then they'll do something else, But I just got to do that. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you, Robert.
You bet.
And thanks, Dana. I appreciate you bringing up this book. It's awesome.
It is. I'm really enjoying it.
I'm learning a lot about myself and improvement.
Craig?
All right. Coach Bob, thank you so very much. Appreciate that. Robert, also, thanks for the added bonuses. I think we'll hear from Robert in a little bit as well. But let's go to Linda, because she has her hand up. Linda, go ahead, unmute yourself, and please share with us.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Dana. And okay, the awareness is power. In chapter 7, it asks what fears are swirling around. You had put the questions about in and around your life and in your mind. I am so grateful to be here and get a chance to share in this book here. This is my time, my space, my place, where I'm supposed to be. That's definiteness right there. That explains definiteness to me. Intention, the word intention is a bad word for me, because I can intend the day before to do this the next day and something happens, and where do I go? Drifting in the other direction. I have written down on calendars what I wanted to get done, and I have been successful. But this outwitting the devil is attacking all the fears I've had in my life. Why? Because just as he said in the book, when I was a child, he was the most thing I was raised to be feared, to fear. Oh, if you don't do this, the devil's gonna be you're going to hell. They use that, my parents used that, the church used that, you know. So you always grew up fearing the devil, pitchfork, big ears, red tail, and all. This book has really opened, and thank you, Robert. I will be the one that will be posting this on my site and telling people, get this book. Come over to Unlimited Wisdom. Sit down and listen to um, Professor Dana. He's a man, not a female. Explain this book to you, you know. So I'm gonna throw some humor in there because, believe it or not, everyone, this book is really opening up, and I'm like Coach Bob. You know, I intend a lot of things to do. I've been with two companies with Robert, MDC, and this company we're in now. I look to go forward, and I want to um, get my business off the ground. But I've had so many fears, and I always say to myself, I'm here. I go away, I come back. But Robert has always been open and honest and spoke his mind. And because he's a millionaire, hey, who am I going to learn from if not? I need to learn from a millionaire how to get to own $1 million one day. I just want it for one day, you know, because I can tell you a lot of things I can do with $1 million in one day. Um, but anyway, what he says, those fears used to stop me. But because I'm doing, and I did, Dana, stop running to all these other companies trying to do the self-help, um, you know, the self-help programs. I'm staying right here now. And I've just picked out books, like maybe The Secret, The Greatest Secret in the World, this book here. Everything is helping me. I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to show up here every Wednesday, listen to you, give us and explain to us reading this book. And it's helping us. So it's helping me. I can only speak for me, but I think it's helping everybody else because they're responding and they're showing up here. You know, open our knowledge of what the fears we've had in our head for years, things that have been placed in our mind for years. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that. Well, I don't say that no more. And I see my self-help programs are helping me. The greatest secret in the world talks about awareness. Um, the secret itself tells you what you can have and what you can't have. The Science of Getting Rich, Wallace Wallen. I love that book because after reading that book as well, it helped me to understand I don't need a whole lot of stuff. I just need to know the things that I do need and do things in a certain way. Robert teaches us a certain way to do things. I found someone who teaches a certain way, so I need to follow that as well as what he says. And sharing. Being a salesperson is not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to help people, you know. Just like Bob said, Coach Bob said, there everybody's drifting. You know, we all are drifting, and as you say, don't go out there and tell them that they're drifting because you're not going to get anywhere with them. You know, so I want to be able to help them because people have shut down. They shut down. They're holding their fears in for fear of thinking if I say this, I'm going to sound stupid. But this opens it up right here. It tells you why you feel like you stupid because the devil has always played on our minds and on our hearts that the things we say or the things we really felt were wrong, you know, because we were taught wrong and because he has influenced society, the schools, the churches. And I just wanted to say that the last question that Napoleon asked and said, do you mean that there is a definite method by which hypnotic rhythm can be made to serve instead of destroy one? And the devil said, I mean just that. I'll hope. Okay? I'll hope.
That's awesome, Linda. Thank you for sharing. That was perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana, and thank you, Robert, for being here. Thank you, Melody, for directing me back to Robert.
Amen. Amen. That is so awesome.
Linda, thank you so much. What a great share. Appreciate that. Robert, do you have something to share?
Um, I sort of did it when I was talking to Bob. As I was listening to this, again, like Linda said, for someone to say that they're not drifting in parts of their lives would very simply say that in every area of their life, they've already peaked in their possibilities as a human being. And that's not true. We all know that every area of our life could be better. It could definitely be better in so many ways. And it's this concept of us constantly figuring out other things to do than taking the baby steps in each one of those categories. It is like the one that it just nailed me on this over and over again is I was taught early in life, and it's funny how I got these little lessons, but a person told me one time, and I think I seen an advertisement of this. So this is like I don't know what it would be like, a little parable or whatever. But someone said, what if everything that you did in life, that there was a way to attach your name to it? So if someone's seen something, they could look at it and immediately know that Bob Johnson did this. And if your name went on everything you did, would you do it any differently? And I just remember that like it was yesterday. And I don't know, I'll give God the credit, where when someone told me that I was good with my hands and I was very, very young, it was like I got a lot of pride and a lot of wins by, wow, you built that go-kart. Wow, you fixed that bike. Wow, you built that motorcycle. And I was, out of all the people that were around me, I had these things, and a majority of the kids, even the rich kids, didn't have them. Because the rich kids, sometimes, I wouldn't say all, but a lot of rich kids were sort of like coddled in a way. So what I mean by that is that, rich kids, it's like, hey, I want a dirt bike. It's like, that's not happening. You're going to dentist school. It was like, these crazy, extreme people that do like X Games. They're adrenaline junkies, right? So for me, making a mini bike or making a go-kart or taking two or three, I remember we all went sliding on this big hill. It was called Golf Course Hill. And I found two or three snowmobiles, and with those parts, I put together a snowmobile. And I'm talking at the age of, 13, 14 years of age. So a lot of kids liked me because I would pull them back up the hill in my, beat up, junked out snowmobile, but no one else had one. But it was like this always constant thing for me, is that I just always wanted to be looked at that if I did something, I did it to the best of my abilities. And the only person that I ever measured against was myself. And I find myself still doing that, only because of someone saying, You need to look at your life and how you do most things. I mean, how you do the little things is how you do most things. And it's like, so everything I've always done, I've either overbuilt or did more than I needed to do. It was always this principle of going the extra mile that just becomes a part of everything that you do. Could you do something for someone, but could you give more? Right? So I never ever had to take the book and find the audios and give them away for free. I didn't have to do all that to give away a gift. But I thought, how could I give more away? Well, what if I gave the book away and the audios for free? And even the mastermind that we did with the science of getting rich. You know what I mean? Man, now I understand just how important masterminds are. Because when we do this, and Dana's been so gracious with his time and going through this in numerous of times with the slides and stuff, is that I know that people are getting on here and they're staying on here. The people that can't get here, they show up. And because of the way that Dana did this information, people can watch it multiple times. So if this has done anything for you, I would say do your best to get more people on it and do exactly what don't do what Dana told you to do. That sounds weird, but sometimes people always share things that can help people with a little bit of being better than you. So, reaching out to someone like Dana said and going, hey, Linda, I'm pretty sure you're drifting and everything in life, and you need to get on here. That's probably not a good approach. And believe it or not, I was never attracted to this book because of just the word devil. You know what I mean? Which sounds like his wife and his daughter were the same way. It's like outwitting the devil. Do I want to even admit that the devil exists in my life? You know what I mean? And so, but I'm always one of those people that like hearing people that study something that are great at it. I always like hearing their perception. So a way of being able to say, hey, listen, I'm part of a community, and on Wednesday, we have a person named Dana Scratton, and he's going through a mastermind with us on how to be better people, how to actually figure out why we know we should be doing stuff and why we're not doing it, and how to make sure you do it. See, come up with some little things and then always your personal testimony. It's like, since I started listening to it, I've really pinpointed a lot of things that I'm going to stop doing so I can get the things done that I know I should get done. So there, that's all I have to share. Anything you want to add, Dana?
Well, I just add one more thing here. Going back to the science of getting rich, in that book, Waddles talks about you may not be living the life of your dreams that you're supposed to be keeping in your mind and thinking about every day, and you may be in a job you don't want, but if you treat every element of that particular life as if the things you do are supporting that bigger purpose, that in effect is what the devil is trying to tell you to do. He's trying to tell you that even though you haven't achieved a purpose, maybe you don't even know what the purpose is, if everything you do with something in your mind that this is relevant to what I want in life and you do it. So, okay, you're going out back and you're picking up the dog mess. How do you relate that? Well, I am going through a disciplined process of cleaning this up so that it's a more healthier environment for the little dog. And that makes me a more responsible person and a more disciplined person. And therefore I can tackle bigger. I mean, it's kind of an abstraction, but it really comes down to making everything that you do, even though you haven't achieved that major purpose, relevant to what you're doing in the journey to that purpose. And it's kind of a exercise in creativity. And at some point, you'll run into something where I can't find any relevance. Stop doing it.
Yeah.
Stop.
Great close, Dana.
Yeah.
Great. Everything that you're doing now, do it to the best of your ability. Do it with pride. Do it with a sense of accomplishment. Make your own wins. I don't need to hear other people pat me on the back for doing what I'm doing.
Micro wins. Chalk
Yeah,
'em up.
micro wins. Good. My son and I were talking about how important gamification is for people. When you want to know how people will stay on a game forever or stay on social media forever, it's like they always got these little things that keep tricking you. You know what I mean? That you're getting a little dopamine down, you know what I mean, or whatever. So thank you, Dana. I'm going to turn it over to Craig. What an awesome hour. What a great hour.
Totally agree, Robert. And Dana, thank you so much. Wow. There's a good reason why we call Dana the professor, because he is definitely teaching us, guiding us, and sharing with us this incredible book, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Shout outs to Linda Collins and Coach Bob Johnson for participating. Matt Hollis, thank you so much for being our executive producer. Robert, of course, bless you. Thank you so much for being another producer, our GPS to success, our friend, our guide. Bless you. And thank you for joining us on this Outwitting the Devil episode number 8A, according to the audios, Definiteness of Purpose. Next week, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, for the next part, 8B, chapter 8B, on Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. If you want to save the information in the meeting chat, go ahead and click the 3 dots in the meeting chat and then click on Save Chat. It'll download as we conclude today's session. Until next time, please be good to yourselves. Be cash. Bye-bye. I'm going to go ahead and open up so we can all say so long and have a wonderful Wednesday.